Hey, what's going on, class? My name is Joseph Glasscock, and today I'm going to be talking about the origins of the alphabet. Now, I know when I was in high school, they talked about it and how it came from the Romans and how we just really took theirs and made it our own with a few modifications. But I don't really remember all too well what I was taught, so I decided to do some research of my own, and I came up with some good information. English is probably one of the most difficult languages to learn simply because of the inconsistencies that we have within our language. I know I've heard from a lot of my friends that were trying to learn English that they had a really hard time learning it. And for me, learning Spanish was very easy. I can't speak fluently, but I understand words and I could pick up on a conversation. Excuse me. The English language took about several languages, hundreds of years, a variety of conquerors, and a bunch of missionaries and scholars to develop this. Scholars attribute its origin to something known as Proto-Semitic, which is a Semitic form of writing developed in Egypt between 1800 and 1900 BC. When they were building on this ancient foundation, the first widely used alphabet was developed by the Phoenicians about 700 years later. Now, they didn't make a complete alphabet, and like I said, this took a whole lot of time and a whole lot of effort to come up with. So when the Phoenicians started to develop it, it only consisted of 22 letters, and they were all consonants. This Semitic language became used throughout the Mediterranean, including in the Levant, which is now Syria, the Iberian Peninsula, North Africa, and Southern Europe. Excuse me. Greeks built on the Phoenician alphabet by adding vowels sometime around 750 BC. It's actually weird thinking about if you didn't really have the English language and stuff like that, the time and effort it took for each group of people to actually sit down and say, all right, this is what we should use. This is how we should use it. It should look like this. It should sound like this. It actually went through a lot and like a lot of processing to come up with the final product. After the Greeks, it was then appropriated by the Latins, which later became the Romans, who combined it with a notable Etruscan characters, including the letters F and S. Now, after the Romans is when we started to develop this language for ourselves, and we started to see what was what and fit it into the alphabet that we see today. When Johann Gutenberg invented the printing press in 1448, it was introduced to Great Britain in the mid 15th century by a man named William Caxton. And when William Caxton introduced the printing press to Great Britain, it became more standardized and modern English appeared. After that, a man named Robert Cowdrey published the first English dictionary. Now, this was in 1604, so this was about 100 years after the printing press was introduced to Great Britain. So it took some time between that. But after that, he made the first dictionary, which was called the Table Alphabetical, and the rest, as they say, is history.